So, as always, we're going to start with a reflection, seated comfortably. I observe what we call the posture of the body, and we all have our own ideas of good posture and poor posture, and perhaps are aware at times of the posture of the body, particularly if there is pain. But if I go a little deeper, there is also spiritual posture, nothing to do with the body, although it will affect how I carry the body. Spiritual posture has to do with my awareness. And there is benevolent, or what we might call good posture, and damaging, or what we would call poor posture. And often when there is pain, spiritual or emotional pain, we are prompted to seek out benevolent spiritual posture. When the body is aligned, it is at peace. And when I am aligned, I, the spiritual being, I will know, because there will be deep peace. I begin to turn my attention deep inside, far deeper than the physical, going into my inner world, feeling like it's a chamber or cave deep inside. And checking, is there peace? Am I aligned? If I am holding tight to anything outside, a past or future scene or situation, that attachment will pull me out of alignment. The moment I let go, I come closer to a healthy alignment. Peace. Spending some time now exploring what is this spiritual alignment and its essential connection to peace. Om Shanti. So yes, our topic today is alignment, and I know we've explored this in the past, but I personally feel I can never get enough of looking at it. It's really the foundation of everything. In the physical realm, we talk about alignment in many different ways, not just the alignment of the body, but say the alignment of the tires on the car. We get our tires aligned. So what does this alignment mean? What does it mean to physically get something aligned? Any thoughts? I know you're deep in reflection. When I still was riding the bicycle, every year it would be stored in the garage for the winter and taking it out in the spring to ride. I'd have to get a tune-up, and one of the most important things was the tires, obviously, to make sure they're at the right pressure, but to get them aligned. Or sometimes the bicycle mechanic would say, truing the wheels. And I really liked that phrase because it suggested that there was a connection between alignment and being true. And when we start to talk about truth, we're entering the realm of something absolute, that there is an ideal or absolute or accurate alignment. And that definitely applies for the body. You know, sometimes we say my truth or your truth. If that was the case, every single fitness class would fall apart because the instructor goes in there with an understanding of physiology, that there is one single, yes, there are injuries, absolute, but there is a single alignment of the body that is ideal. There's not a bunch of variations. And accepting that there are injuries, how can we move closer to that healthy alignment of the body? And so various exercises are done with always that aim of alignment. Sometimes ego steps in and we will forsake alignment for show. So we might try to do a higher quantity of reps with absolutely no attention to alignment. And that makes us feel good. I did 50 reps. They were pretty bad, but I did 50. The other day I was, this is true confessions, I was doing an exercise called a pull-up. We could do these forever when we were children, but you know, it's where you hang onto the bar and you pull yourself up with your feet off the ground. And there was a personal trainer behind me taking a rest between his reps. And he's always very encouraging. He said, oh, go, Judy, do 5 reps. And I'm like, no, 5 reps are not going to happen today. And I said, maybe 2. I said, do 3, just do 3. I said, okay. So off I went. I did my 3 reps and he was like, woohoo, fantastic. I said, yeah, but they weren't very pretty. And when I said pretty, I meant with good alignment, right? So we went for the quantity and maybe the alignment wasn't so good. So sometimes that happens maybe because of arrogance, but that idea that I'm going to eventually attain quantity, but first I'll focus on quality, on what is the alignment of the exercise, because doing something with proper alignment after a long period, especially of not, takes an incredible amount of attention and effort, even though doing it with proper alignment is easier on the body, that is less destructive. When you're coming from bad habits, it's so different. We say it's challenging, but it's actually easier on the body to do something in proper alignment than poor alignment. So we see that in fitness, that alignment is king, gold, that you will get the most benefit from what you're doing, whatever it is, if you do it with proper alignment. And as alignment is to the body, we say awareness is to the spirit or the soul, to the self. So awareness is alignment in spirituality. And what is my awareness? If the alignment is off physically, we eventually get a signal. And that signal is pain. So we often, I remember one story where there was a soul who you could just tell they had a very strange walking gait, very strange alignment. And after many, many years, they're very athletic, so they're skiing everything with this misalignment. After many years, even though they're quite young, they have to get a hip replacement. And I found it interesting because there was acute pain. A hip replacement obviously was needed. And I remember afterwards they were like, yep, no, I got the hip replacement. I said, great. Are they also working on your alignment? And it really didn't sound like it. And so in my mind, I thought, well, you'll be getting the other hip replaced pretty soon. Very often physically, when we feel pain, we address the symptoms. That's our first go-to because they're acute. And then we tend to look a bit externally, if you will, for a solution, what we call a short-term solution. Because the long-term solution, the sustainable solution, is going to take a little time. It's probably going to be a little humbling, and it will take subtle effort. And in fitness, subtle effort's very annoying because I want to sweat and burn and kill. And if I'm just doing subtle things, is there really any attainment here? And there's one soul who I very often find we are often working out at the same time on our own. So it's a bit like being in a meditation room because we're alone together. And we're both in what we call the functional part of the facility where you can do functional fitness exercise. And he's there because he was a very, very active athlete, soccer. But then he developed severe back pain that was becoming chronic. And he has 2 little boys and he wants to play with them. So he realized, I need to do something about this. And he tried all sorts of things, injections and massage and adjustment and all sorts of things. And eventually, actually, he had to get an operation just for that relief of acute pain. But luckily, he was smart enough in 2 ways. Because it was so acute post-op, they actually gave him very, very, very heavy pain relievers, addictive pain relievers, which often happens with severe pain. And, you don't even know who you are when you come out, so you do whatever they say. But after a little while, he really didn't feel comfortable with this for a couple of reasons. It was addictive, and he felt it was masking something that he really needed to address. So he says it was the hardest thing in his life. And he's had some pretty extreme pain as an athlete, but withdrawing sensibly from the medication was huge for him. And he also started doing what we call very subtle functional fitness exercises that work a lot on alignment. They're very, very subtle. He could easily be upstairs lifting heavy weights and grunting and sweating like everyone else, but he's down there on the functional floor doing these quiet little exercises that focus. And he's feeling so invested in it because he's had the realization that at the end of the day, for sustainability, not acute, but sustainability, he has to master proper alignment. He has to. And so, very similar to spirituality, that we start to get a little bit out of alignment And it's very often ego driving us into show. And we do things, we sacrifice that spiritual alignment for some temporary attainment. And eventually, we experience pain, spiritual pain. We feel peaceless, anxious, restless, uncertain, almost a sense of meaninglessness, whatever the case may be, but we feel spiritual pain. And we have some choices at that time. We can ignore it and try to mask it with some quick fixes here, there, and everywhere, and kind of thinking the problem's out there and try to move away from it, try to numb ourselves to it. We can try that. But of course, everywhere we go, there we are. So it's not really sustainable. But if that pain, it can actually be our friend if it's inviting or encouraging us to look at what we're doing in a new way, be open. And again, it's humbling. Be open to first saying, I actually don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I do and I don't. It's a very interesting thing. I do know in the sense that there is a memory of proper alignment inside each of us. So we call that deep inner wisdom or a deep inner knowing. I do know because I had it once. What we notice physically, barring any difficulties at the beginning of their physical life, infants have excellent alignment and they're extremely flexible. And they pretty much have it all. In that, so, we had it at one point. And then we start to, mostly ego, starts to erode. So we look at the cost that we're willing to make for a temporary hit. And a very classic example is someone working. I have a client now, and this is the case, someone working hours at the computer. And hours at the computer without stepping away to meet some kind of deadline or outcome has you stuck like this, very anterior closed for long periods of time. And usually your head is doing that wonderful. This is like a bowling ball. It's quite heavy. And when you stick it out, which we do when on the computer, it does incredibly frightening things to all the muscles through here. I actually sometimes I'm cracking the very top of my my cervical spine, just trying to realign. I can hear it go crack. I think it frightens people because we can, and it's a funny thing. Ego or some external attainment is so powerful. And that's just like taking drugs for physical pain. The problem's still there, but it's like numbing it. It's a really strange thing. I've always found it odd. I don't know if you have, but I knew one soul who I knew had broken bones, and they were taking these drugs very strong, so they didn't feel the pain anymore, but the bones are still broken. I went, what happens? That's remarkable. So same thing goes spiritually. I can be so out of alignment and screaming that there's something wrong, but the ego is so strong. We had the word today. It's like we're a slave to it. And so physically, I can be in a posture that is actually screaming in pain. But the ego is so strong, the desire, whatever, the outcome so strong that it literally numbs me to hearing the body screaming out in pain. Because that's what it does. That's what it's built to do, is to give me signals. Just like when I put my hand on a hot burner, it's giving me a signal. That's a damaging thing to do to me, right? So we get a pain signal. Similarly, out of alignment, it will give me signals. I'll get lower back pain, stiffening in the shoulders, head. The soul that I'm working with suddenly severe migraines, and they were at design school, and I can totally understand what happened because For the little time I spent in design school, the expectation is, in fact, they have cots, beds at design school. The expectation is you will keep working. Artists are known. It's not just Van Gogh cutting off his ear. Artists are known for physically sacrificing their body for the art. They're known for that. From Michelangelo to Van Gogh, they will sacrifice. So that myth or mentality is very deep. That beautiful masterpiece that is my creation, I will sacrifice the body. So artists will keep working long, long hours, not eat properly, not sleep properly, very strange postures, very jarring, toxic chemicals, jarring things they're doing for their creation, their child, which says so much about them, right? That ego again, that show. And so this soul had spent a lot of time, long hours at the computer as a designer. And this whole thing is a mess to the point that they now have migraines. There was probably signals very early that something was off. But when we're so engaged under the influence of arrogance, it's amazing what we become numb to. So what is that proper alignment? Well, it's obvious. If ego is pulling me out of alignment, probably proper alignment is self-respect. But what does that mean spiritually? What's the method? I can't just say, have self-respect, off you go. I don't even know where to begin. So what exactly does that mean? What's going on? And when we look at the opposite, what pulls us out of alignment, obviously it's investing my sense of self in external, physical, and temporary things. And so I think I am my job, or I think I am the relationships, or that's my world, or I think I am the body, or I think I am, a particular action even. And so constantly I am sacrificing my sense of self for that thing, which is external, temporary, and of course, putting my value into it. It's going to go up and down as that thing comes and goes. And so if I'm going to come into proper alignment, self-respect, I'll have to start to pull out or detach from all of these places I've invested my sense of self. So detachment, or sometimes we use the word freedom, liberation, is very, very deeply connected to proper alignment, to self-respect. The beautiful thing about spirituality, and I think physicality too, I do think that if we can learn to release, the body will actually start to realign itself too. But the beautiful thing about spirituality is it suggests that the proper alignment is always there. Again, we have a memory of it. It's always there, waiting to be experienced. It's always there. It's not something I have to bring in or take on or learn. It's always there. It's just not being used, not being activated, because I'm so attached to things out there as a sense of self. And when I attach to things, it pulls me all over the place. It really pulls me out of alignment. And so this process of letting go is huge. That state of detachment is actually the thing, is the proper alignment, that freedom. And most of us have a very funny relationship with our lives. And this idea of alignment is that, and we see it so much, souls will pour themselves into something and they love it, and then they kind of get to what we call a burnout point. Even the way we structure our lives, we have weekdays and weekends. And the idea of people say, I'm living for the weekend, right? So they're working really hard and they need a couple of days to just do nothing. Or the idea of going on a holiday. I need time out. And you kind of wonder, what's going on that we even need a weekend? Like, what's going on? As kids, we never needed a weekend. It was all a weekend. We were just playing all the time. So we tend to swing a lot. So it suggests a very conflicted relationship, that I get very attached to these things and they're giving me some kind of attainment or hit. But at the same time, I can feel they're draining me. So I'm attaching to things that drain me. And this happens all the time. Souls, they get very excited. They take things on. They're really happy to start things. And then that can't be sustained. I get burnt out. I have a lot of unfinished projects. So we don't really have a healthy relationship with our lives, with how we've created our lives, because again, we have all of this attachment. The attachment's pulling me out of alignment, which really drains the soul. Without that freedom, I eventually start to feel like I'm in a cage, like it's a burden. It starts to create heaviness. And so how to have responsibilities and play roles and still stay very light, very much in alignment, in that sense of self. How to find that beautiful balance. And alignment physically is the secret behind balancing. Alignment spiritually is also the secret behind balance or contentment. So how to develop that detachment? We're very proficient in so many things. We don't need to work on our skills. We've got that side of the balance covered. We're very good at doing. But that, what we call being or detaching state of feeling liberated, of not losing myself, losing alignment as I come into those different responsibilities and activities. And so this idea of starting to let go of not stepping away from anything, but internally not feeling that attachment, that my sense of self is invested in these things. And I'm thinking a lot about the first student of the Brahma Kumaris of Raj Yoga, which was Brahma Baba. And, we've talked about him many times. He had, just prior to coming into this study, a very well-developed life, if you will. Many thought a very beautiful and rich life. He had a very well-developed business, jewelry business, extremely successful, lovely family, well-respected in the community, philanthropic, religious-minded, really all-rounder. All the bases were covered. And seems like everything's fine. Why on earth would he step away from all of that? And it wasn't so much that he was stepping away, but what he started to feel internally was this, we call it disinterest, which is the precursor to letting go. This disinterest that it's a bit like loving chocolate, but then something happens inside where you suddenly can be in a room filled with chocolate and you have absolutely no interest to eat any of it, as if your tastes are changing, your interests are changing, and things that before were fulfilling are no longer providing that fulfillment. So it's not that I need to step away from them, it's just that I no longer need them, have that deep attachment. It's okay if they're there, it's okay if they're not there. And we started, this idea of developing a different relationship with the world that does not compromise my alignment or self. So all of these different places that Brahma Baba was invested, his sense of self, when you said his name was Dada Lackridge. If someone was to talk about Dada Lackridge, says, oh yes, he's that very successful jeweler. Oh yes, he's that wonderful family man. Oh yes, he's that philanthropic soul who hosts satsangs. These are, and he was feeling none of those were working anymore as a sense of identity. There was an inner restlessness or pain that was beginning to signal, I'm not in alignment. Nothing's wrong with anything going on in my life. I'm not in alignment. And so he's very pulled to discover this true alignment, deep, deep alignment that's the foundation of our life. And as he started to detach, it's not that he was disappearing, because he said, well, I'm not just a jeweler. I'm not just this family man. These are all temporary. They eventually will end at some point. I must be more than that, otherwise I end, which many believe they do. I think the concept of thinking I die is definitely a sign of being misaligned. And so as he started to let go, what happened was his true, and again, remember, alignment means to align with the truth, to be trued. The truth about himself had a chance to emerge or be revealed to himself. So as he started to let go and say, okay, when I let go of these, is there life after ego? This is really the question. And he started to realize, okay, if I'm not these temporary things, and as I let go of identifying with them, I still seem to exist. So who am I when you take away all those temporary things? And that includes, of course, the body. It's temporary too. So who am I? Taking away all the temporary, which of course leaves what is eternal. And the truth is defined as that which is eternal. And he started to realize that what remained was this living being, this thinker, this observer, this experiencer that was almost functioning inside the body. This is who he was. No, he was not the body, but he was this living being that is expressing through the body. And we use the term soul. And so we started to go deeply into that experience. It was quite kinesthetic, I think, of being, okay, I'm not the body. Yes, I'm using the body, but I know it's temporary. I'm not the body, but who am I, this being that's using the body? So going into the experience of what is the soul? What are the qualities? What are the features of the soul? Going very deeply. It's very simple, very basic. And starting to realize that as he aligned with this experience of being a soul, he was becoming less affected by what was going on. In other words, things didn't pull him off. So something would happen and he still felt peaceful. Just by being able to align himself with an eternal sense of self, he started to find this peace, this peacefulness was becoming more and more frequent. So we use the term Om Shanti. It's not meant to just be a greeting or a way of saying goodbye or checking in. It's actually meant to describe true alignment. Om, I am Shanti, a being of peace, eternal. Nothing here really is mine. It all comes and goes. It's all quite a wonder, but it comes and goes. Can I have a different relationship with the physical realm that doesn't take me out of alignment, that is, doesn't make me peaceless? And he started to notice other qualities were compromised when he was out of alignment, but they were naturally there. They remained stable when he was in alignment. So when he was out of alignment, thinking he was these external, temporary things, he'd be more reactive. And it's as if this royalty or grace or dignity of the self fluctuated a lot. But when he remained stable in that eternal sense of self, aligned with the experience of being a soul, then it was as if the dignity remained intact in every situation. And you say, so what? But what that means is that we respond to things in a beneficial way, not in a selfish way, not in an insecure way, not in a short-term way or unsustainable way, not in a damaging or violent way, but in a benevolent way. So that's really important if we're trying to create a certain kind of world, is what kind of responses we have, how we act. And so we spent so much time exploring this true alignment, this eternal sense of self, and going deeply. There's quite a bit of depth to the self in that alignment and making it more, it's like doing physical exercise, but it was spiritual exercise or drill. And I sometimes feel we may not spend enough time on this. And I know what it's like physically when souls don't spend enough time on the basics, is they keep advancing the exercises thinking they're progressing, but actually what they're doing is strengthening bad habits. And eventually that will lead to injury. But someone who takes time to create a very strong foundation, even though it doesn't look like much is going on, looks like everyone else is racing ahead, but if they take that time, sounds like the tortoise and the hare, take that time, then eventually they will truly be able to progress or advance. And so inspired by the example of Brahma Baba, who took so much time creating a really good alignment. And in fact, it's funny when you look at physical pictures of him, even up until 93 was when he left the body. He even physically looks well aligned. He physically looks so royal, the way he carried the body. It's not like he, had coaching on proper posture, but there's something about when I am spiritually aligned, all the other aspects of my life, from mental, emotional, and physical, they all come into a healthy place if the spiritual is taken care of, because awareness is king. And so we use it so much. We say awareness. Do you have body awareness? Do you have mental awareness? Do you have emotional awareness? Awareness is everything to be aware. And that awareness, as I go deeply into spiritual awareness, because that's the essence of who I am, I, the soul, I am improving my capacity to see and take care of the self on every possible level. And so spending so much time in that spiritual alignment, taking care of that, it's quite simple and basic. It's not intellectual, don't have to be clever. It's very, very basic. I, the soul, am eternal. The body is not, it's temporary. Everything in the external world is temporary. It will come and go, and that's okay. But I'm going to look at changing my relationship with it, that I don't lose myself in the outer world, that there's me with all the values within the self, peace being so high on the list. And then I come into interaction with the physical world. Sometimes it's compared to being very aware that there's the car and there is me, the driver. I can get into the car and start to drive the car, but I don't become the car. I'm always aware that I, the driver, am separate from the car. And the state that I, the driver, am in will determine how I care for that car. So if someone's very anxious or angry, they drive that car in a really damaging way. And when someone's very peaceful and calm, they drive it in a different way. So, this very distinct relationship between the driver and the car. The same thing with me and the body. There is me, the being, and the humus, the body. Together, this relationship of human being. And what is the state of me, the being, the soul? Is it aligned? Is it peaceful? Does it have that freedom, that lightness, that detachment, that easiness? And if so, how will I use the body? How will I use any of these resources? How will my relationships be? How will the work be? Any of them, depending on the state or alignment I am in. So I'm going to stop there and check in and see if there's any comments or questions. And then we'll do a little exercise. So yes, if there's any comments or questions, you can either chat or unmute, I think. I'm really bad at being the host. Yes, I believe you can unmute yourself. Or you can stay mute. I just want to make sure you're okay. Are you out there? Or are we having a little rest? Maybe that's something the body needs because we are so out of alignment that we work it to the bone. It was interesting. We had a workshop this morning, and I really, really liked the question that was asked at the end. And it was really about, how do I, the soul, how can I tell the difference between, taking care of the body and being perhaps too strong on the body? And for me, it really boiled down to this alignment issue. That when I use the body in misalignment, which we call ego, I will always eventually be damaging to the body. But if I'm using the body in alignment, self-respect, there can still be discipline, etc., but self-respect, then anything I do, even disciplines, will be very caring to the body. So the alignment's huge. You could have two souls externally appearing to do the same thing. Sitting, for example, in meditation. But one sitting in a state of arrogance. Look what a good meditator I am. Look how still I am. Look how, straight I am. Look how focused I am, how intense I am. And it's really painful on the body. And someone else can be sitting the exact same way externally, but internally they're just, let me experience the deep value of the self as a soul and such a royal feeling of the self. And it lands up creating this beautiful physical alignment, but from such a caring and respectful place. So the awareness is huge, and not to try to make it happen from the outside in, but align and see what happens. So the exercise we're going to try is I'm going to ask you to think of a quality that is very, very important to you, the soul. You feel it really defines who you are. So a quality that's very important to you. And once you've thought of that quality, I'm going to ask you to go a step deeper and feel it. Go very deeply into the feeling. I mean, you're attracted to it because you must know what it feels like. Again, that inner wisdom. Feel that quality. Feel like you're becoming that quality. And so the feeling being, am experiencing that quality so deeply, not aware of anything else, just absorbed in the feeling. And it should be a very pleasant experience because you value this quality. It's very precious to you. Just experiencing it as if I'm seated in that awareness of I am that quality. I'm a point of that quality. It has nothing to do with the body, it's just the feeling of it. I'm just a concentrated point of that quality. And the first thing, the most intimate part of the body that we have with those feelings is, how do you look out through the eyes when you are genuinely, honestly, truly aligned with that quality? How do you look out through the eyes? Again, I'm stable in that experience. I have become that quality. I am that quality. How do I look out through the eyes? And the next thing, how do I breathe? How is the breath of the body when I'm stable in the feeling of that quality? And next, what is the alignment of the body when I am stable in that quality? I am that quality. What is the alignment of the body? And lastly, imagine what the day, actions and interactions would be like if I moved through the day always aligned with that quality, visualizing myself interacting with people I see every day. But now I'm stable, aligned with that quality. What is the interaction like? So really experimenting. This is what it means to call myself a soul, is I have a very qualitative experience of myself. It's got nothing to do with the physical. It's just that feeling, that vibration, and becoming very stable in that. And we refer to God as like a brace, right? We got a little bit out of alignment and we feel that quality, and then God acts like a brace, helping us to hold that alignment while the old habits keep trying to pull us out of alignment. God acts like a brace to hold that alignment. So it's something I enjoy experimenting with a lot. When I'm seated, I experience myself to be a soul. That is, I experience that quality of the self. And when I connect to the Supreme Soul, I feel he almost strengthens that quality and melts away bad habits. And if I can do that while I walk and move around, I will be acting differently through the senses, which means, due to the law of karma, I'm changing my future. So it's quite powerful, this alignment. It is the foundation. So again, I don't know if there's any thoughts, and you've all been very respectfully quiet. If there's any final thoughts you want to share before we finish with the reflection. Are we okay? All right. Well, we'll just finish off. So arranging the body as if seated in a royal way. And taking my focus from the body onto the self, the one who's looking out through the eyes, listening through the ears, I, the thinking, living, feeling being that sits in the vehicle of this body, this bodily dangling down below as I sit on the throne of the forehead. And taking a moment to align with an eternal sense of self. It's not connected to any skills or relationships, even incidents of the past. It's not connected to the body. Beyond all of that, it's captured, can be described by qualities, virtues, feeling the very peaceful state of the self, the royal state of the self, the light, easygoing nature of the self, the maturity of the self, experiencing it very deeply, so deeply I'm not even aware of the body, just absorbed in the qualities of the self. They're so real, so tangible, so concrete, even though it's all invisible, not physical. And from that very powerful, aligned seat of the self, I look out through the windows of the eyes and feel I am radiating the qualities of the self out into the world. this spiritual drishti, like watering the world with the qualities of the self, something I can only do while I'm in this body. A beautiful relationship between me, the being, the source of value, and this body, the instrument through which I express the beauty of the self. Om Shanti. I believe that concludes our time together. A final chance for any thoughts if you want to share. I'm hoping you're okay. I can see Raj.
Thank you. It was beautiful. I think alignment
Oh,
is,
just hang on, Raj.
even though you were saying the qualities, I was thinking about the inner peace, but I think alignment is one of the most important things to keep in mind all the time, because we
Mhm.
tend to misalign not only in the body but in the mind too, and then we
Mhm.
kind of keep going like that till you know instead of you know going back from peace and then a little bit disturbance and then
Mm.
aligning to peace, but if we go for a longer period of time, then it's hard to kind of shift back into the peaceful state. So it's if we keep that as a high priority for ourselves, then it's easier and keep working on that and keep the
Mhm.
alignment there. But if we kind of start missing that frequently, then it's harder to kind of get back to the
Yeah,
alignment state,
such a good
aligned
point.
state. Yeah.
Yeah, no, such a good point, Raj. This was something I think that was very high on the list.
Yeah.
Brahma Baba's efforts was just, we call it self-care, but paying attention so I don't go too far along. And then it's so much work to come back into alignment. So it's much easier just to take care, pay attention. Really good point. Anyone else want to comment or share before we liberate you? All right. I could be wrong, but I think next weekend is focus. I, it's whatever it is. So I look forward. And if you ever have something you would like to look at in terms of inner fitness, please feel free. I'm always happy to switch gears and look at something of interest to you as well. So thank you for joining. I know it's the Thanksgiving weekend, and I heard someone share something so beautiful today. It was the fitness class I was in, and the instructor said, he said, I'm so thankful just to be here with you, just that I can do this. He was expressing so much gratitude for what seems like very simple things. There's a lot of grumbling sometimes now about what we can't do, but I think to appreciate what we can is super important.
It's a very good point, Sister Judy. I'm
Mm.
really thankful that you are doing this during this last 7 months, this online thing. It's really beautiful. It just makes a big difference.
Well, I'm thankful that you join
Yeah.
because otherwise I'd be talking to myself and you
Well,
have
I would
been.
I would listen to your recording. I've started listening to your interview with
Oh, yeah.
Raj Yogi last night. I listened to first of them, and then I said, "Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm glad you guys have been
No,
recording."
you have been a
Yeah,
steadfast attendee through the whole thing.
I need a
And
lot of work on myself. So the
no,
more I
no.
do, the better it is for me to stay aligned in my
Well,
inner
we
peace.
really appreciate you always being present. It's so helpful, perhaps
No,
more
it's
than you
just very
know,
enjoyable.
that you're always here. So
Yeah,
all of you, thank you.
thank you.
Have a lovely Thanksgiving. Keep the attitude of gratitude going beyond October 12th. And if not during the week, I look forward to seeing you all next weekend. Om Shanti. Bye bye.